Far away, at the edge of a bright group of stars called the Orion Expanse, a very large space station floated in the middle of deep space. It was bigger than 100 cities put together. This station was called Virlia Prime. It did not belong to just one planet or species. It belonged to everyone. Virlia Prime was the center of the Galactic Council, a special group made of the leaders of many alien civilizations from across the galaxy. The Council was created long ago to keep peace, solve problems, and make decisions without war. Fighting was not allowed there, only talking, voting, and sharing ideas. Virlia Prime was built with tall towers of glowing metal, wide paths that floated above empty space, and shining domes full of alien lights and gardens. From a distance, it looked like a peaceful star, but inside it was always busy. Creatures from every corner of the galaxy came here. Some had many arms, some floated above the ground, some clicked or blinked instead of speaking. There were also robots, machines with minds, and beings so old that their bodies were made of energy, not bones. In the middle of all this was the council hall. It was a round room with high seats for every leader. From here, they made choices that could affect millions of planets. The council was powerful, but it had changed over time. In the early days, its goal was peace. Now many members cared more about power, money, or control. Some made secret deals. Some broke promises. Others looked the other way when small planets were hurt or destroyed. The galaxy was still working, but just barely. Among the many voices in the council, there was once one that stood out. It came from a world called Earth. The beings from Earth were called humans. At first, the other species didn't take humans seriously. They were new to space, small in number, and didn't have the strong weapons or long histories that other empires had. But humans had something special. They learned fast. They kept going even when things got hard. They worked together in ways other species found strange. Over time, they earned respect. Then something terrible happened. A dark age began. No one knows exactly how or why, but Earth fought a war so great and terrible that even the stars seemed to burn. It was a war against an unknown enemy, something strong enough to nearly destroy humanity. The battle lasted many years. When it ended, Earth closed its doors. Humans stopped sending messages. Their ships disappeared. They turned silent. For almost 100 years, no one saw a human again. During that time, stories began to spread. People in the council whispered about human soldiers who could fight with the strength of a star. Some said human science had created living weapons. Others believed their minds had become machines. Many thought these were just tales to frighten others, old legends told by traders and smugglers. Without proof, the council stopped worrying about Earth. They thought the humans were gone for good. Then something changed. One morning, without warning, a new signal arrived at Virlia Prime. It was short. It had no message, no words, only a symbol. The symbol was a seal from Earth. It showed a circle with a line through it, glowing red with ancient writing underneath. Along with it came a set of coordinates pointing to one of the hidden docks of the station. That was it. No warning, no greeting, just a signal. The council was confused. Was it real? Was it a trick? Why now after so many years? Some leaders were curious. Others were afraid. But all of them agreed they needed to find out what this meant. They gathered in the viewing towers, high above the inner docks of the station. There, through wide glass windows, they watched as something arrived. A ship unlike any they had seen before slid out of a warp hole. It was small, black, and shaped like a long blade. It made no noise, it left no trail, it had no flag, no escort, nothing but one passenger. The ship entered the dock and landed without help. The doors opened. A single figure stepped out. He was tall but not huge. His body was wrapped in something black and smooth, a suit that moved like water. It shined without shining, like a shadow that was alive. His face showed no feeling. His eyes were cold and calm. He looked human, but there was something different about him, something sharp, something dangerous. He walked slowly, like he was not in a hurry. He carried no weapons, but the feeling in the room grew heavy as he entered. Even the bravest guards stepped back without knowing why. This person was known as Envoy 13. The number was not just for show. He was the 13th unit sent out by Earth's hidden government called the Silent Assembly. No one knew what had happened to the first 12. Some said they failed. Others believed they were never real. But Envoy 13 was very real. He had come alone without a fleet or army. He said nothing, but his presence spoke louder than words. He was here to deliver a message. The council called for emergency talks. Every member gathered inside the great chamber. They waited for the envoy to speak, but he said nothing. Instead, he placed a small metal cube on the central table. Lights blinked on its sides. It began to glow. The cube opened and showed a message. The voice was mechanical but strong. It said, "We come not in peace nor in war. We come in balance. He carries judgment." The room grew silent. Even the oldest empires, those who had seen 1,000 wars, paused. What did that mean? What was this envoy? What was he here to do? The council tried to ask questions, but the envoy only stood still. He didn't move. He didn't blink. It was as if he was waiting. For what, no one knew. Some believed he was a test. Others thought he was a weapon. A few guessed he had come to make peace. But not everyone trusted him. In the dark corners of the council, plans were already being made. One group, a powerful empire known as the Zern, had long hated humans. They believed Earth had hidden secrets too dangerous to exist. The Zern leaders whispered to each other and gave silent orders. Later that night, they sent a small team to follow the envoy. Their job was simple: find out what he was and destroy him if needed. The team wore cloaks that blocked heat and sound. They moved like shadows through the station. They found the envoy in one of the quiet towers, standing still as if asleep. But when they got close, something happened. The air changed. The walls shook slightly. And in the next few seconds, all the lights in the hallway went out. When the power came back on, the team was gone, not injured, not running, gone. No alarms were triggered. No weapons had fired. There were no marks on the floor. The only thing left was a symbol drawn on the wall, a circle with a line through it, glowing red. The council panicked. They demanded answers. They tried to speak to the envoy again. He didn't move. He didn't explain, but everyone knew something had changed. This was no simple meeting. It was not about trade or old promises. This was something else. The stories were not just stories. He was not a guest. He was a warning. And he had already made up his mind. Envoy 13 did not speak, eat, or rest. After his arrival, he remained inside the highest tower of Virelia Prime, alone and unmoving. Each hour, the mystery around him grew. The metal walls around his chamber recorded no sound. The sensors found no heartbeat, no breath, no heat. The cameras went dark whenever pointed at him. Even light itself bent strangely near his body. Some thought he was not alive at all. Others believed he was something more than alive. The council became nervous. They had accepted him into the station out of curiosity and fear. But now they felt trapped. They did not understand him, and what people do not understand, they often fear. The signal he had sent before his arrival was still being studied by top scientists. Its code was old, yet too advanced to break. Its message had no beginning or end, as if it was not a message at all, but a thought waiting to be unlocked. The Zern Empire had already lost a spy team to him. Their leaders, angry and scared, sent more hidden ships to circle Virelia Prime. They called their warships invisible wings because they could not be tracked easily. Other empires like the Drezai, the Kiroth, and the Mari began moving their own forces closer to the council station. No one said it out loud, but every government in the galaxy now feared that war was coming. And they all believed that somehow this strange human was the cause. The council met again, this time in private. Only the highest members sat at the round table. They argued for hours. Some said to send Envoy 13 away. Others warned that it might cause Earth to return with anger. A few wanted to lock him up. But one group, the Sol, suggested something else. They wanted to test him. Their idea was simple: create a crisis and see what he does. If he was just a man, he would fail or run. If he was a weapon, they might learn how he worked. Either way, they would have more answers than they had now. So they made a plan. They chose a planet not too far from Virelia Prime. This world was called Pelnar. It was small, full of rich metals and strange gases, and home to a peaceful race called the Feln. The Feln had no army, only workers and builders. The council had promised to protect them. But now the council quietly told the Zern that they would look away if something were to happen there. The Zern Empire did not wait. Within 2 days their black ships reached Pelnar. Without warning, they sent fire down from the sky. Whole cities were burned. The Feln cried out for help, but no one answered. The council said nothing. Their hope was that the diplomat from Earth would leave his tower, go to Pelnar and reveal his power. Then they would watch and learn. But Envoy 13 did not move. He stayed in his room, still, silent. Outside, the attack on Pelnar grew worse. The Zern sent ground troops, cold steel machines with sharp blades and no feelings. They walked over homes and tore apart towers. The Feln had nowhere to run. Every ship was blocked. They begged the council again and again, but the council only watched. Inside the tower, the silence continued. No sound, no light. The diplomat did not eat, drink, or sleep. Guards who watched from far away began to shake from fear. It felt like something was building, something waiting to break. Then on the 3rd day, something strange happened. The lights across the entire station blinked once, just once, like a breath before something big. Then all power to the tower shut down. Lights went out, doors froze, alarms stayed silent. Nothing worked. When the emergency power came back, the room where Envoy 13 had stood was empty. He was gone. No one saw him leave. No cameras had footage. No doors had opened. No air had moved. The council panicked. Messages were sent. Armies were warned. Ships prepared for battle. The heads of the Zern were told to stop the attack and pull back, but it was too late. Pelnar had already fallen. The fires on the planet burned so bright that they could be seen from space. Smoke curled up in giant rings, spinning across the sky. The machines of the Zern marched through ash and silence. Not one building was left untouched. The people of Pelnar hid in the deep caves under the ground, hoping the metal monsters would not follow. Then the sky changed. It was like the stars blinked. One moment the stars were there, tiny and quiet. The next, one of them moved. It stretched, then folded, then dropped into the shape of a human. It was Envoy 13. He did not wear armor. He carried no weapons. He did not fly a ship. He simply appeared. The machines saw him. Their red eyes locked onto his figure. They scanned him. They did not see anything dangerous. He was not warm, not armed, not glowing, so they moved forward. But as the first machine stepped toward him, its body began to rust. Its arms bent in the wrong direction. Its metal legs turned soft, then crumbled to dust. Before it hit the ground, it had become nothing but powder. The other machines paused. They were fast learners. They turned their weapons on him. Energy beams shot through the air, lighting the sky with green and blue. The beams hit the envoy, but they did not pass through him. They vanished. Not blocked. Not bounced. They simply stopped existing. Then the machines began to fall. One by one, without sound. Their parts stopped working. Their thoughts were erased. No explosion, no fight, just silence. The ground beneath Envoy 13 cracked, not from weight but from pressure, as if the space around him was pulling everything inward. Rocks rose from the dirt. The wind stopped. The sky turned red. From the caves, the Feln watched. They saw the strange man standing alone in the smoke. He lifted one hand. That was all. From the sky, a line of light dropped toward the surface. It was sharp, thin, and brighter than the sun. It struck the ground and spread in every direction. Where it moved, the invaders vanished. Ships melted in midair. Towers of steel turned into dust. No Feln were hurt. Only the machines and the fire were removed. When the light faded, the planet was quiet again. Envoy 13 was gone. The Feln sent a message to the council. It was short. He came, he saw, we are alive. Back on Virlia Prime, the council was in chaos. They had tried to trap the human diplomat. Instead, they had started something they could not control. The Zern screamed for revenge. They lost thousands of soldiers and ships in seconds. Their leaders wanted war. They demanded answers. The other members of the council began to pick sides. Some feared Earth. Others wanted its power. A few believed the envoy was not a man, but a warning from something greater. In the middle of the panic, a new signal arrived. It came through every screen, every speaker, every light. It was a voice. It was human. It said, "This was the first step. Judgment has begun. Balance will be restored." Then it ended. No one could trace where it came from. No one knew if it was the envoy or something else. But one thing was clear. The galaxy had poked a sleeping world. And now that world had started to wake up. The galaxy could not stop talking about what had happened on Pelnar. Every screen across 1,000 planets played the same image. A single human standing tall while giant machines crumbled around him. Whole fleets had vanished in seconds. Entire armies had been wiped away. No one had seen anything like it before. People were afraid, confused, and amazed. Some called the human a hero. Others called him a weapon. Many did not know what to think. The Galactic Council tried to stay calm. They held emergency meetings day and night. Inside the great halls of Virelia Prime, leaders argued and shouted. Their voices echoed through tall chambers as they pointed fingers at each other. Some said it was the Zern's fault for attacking Pelnar. Others blamed the council itself for allowing such a plan. But deep down, they all feared one thing: the return of Earth. Earth had been silent for centuries. Most believed it had fallen or faded away. But now it seemed that humans were not only alive, they were more powerful than anyone could imagine. This scared the old empires, especially those that had grown strong during Earth's long sleep. If humans returned, everything could change. The balance of power would shift. Old rulers could fall. New voices could rise. The Zern Empire, filled with shame and anger, refused to stay quiet. They gathered their remaining ships and began to build more. Massive factories worked without rest. Soldiers were trained faster than ever. New weapons were made in secret, hidden beneath the ice of cold moons or inside dark asteroid fields. The Zern did not want to be embarrassed again. They wanted to strike back, harder this time. But they were not alone. The Kiroth, who ruled the burning planets near the twin suns, began forming alliances. They had fought humans long ago and remembered the pain. They reached out to the Mari, the Vortai, and even the insect-like Zari swarm. Together, they whispered of forming a new group, one with a single goal: stop Earth before it was too late. Far away, deep in a quiet part of space, a small ship drifted through the stars. Inside it sat Envoy 13. He did not steer the ship. He did not press buttons or speak. The ship moved on its own, following some invisible map written in codes too old to be read. It passed empty planets and dead stars, moving faster than light, faster than thought. Inside the ship, walls glowed with soft blue light. Strange symbols floated in the air. A soft hum filled the space. But the envoy remained still. His body did not change. His eyes never blinked. Around him, the air was thick like water, though it did not slow him down. He was waiting for something. After a long journey, the ship stopped near a dark planet. This world was not on any map. It had no name, no light, and no sound. It was covered in thick clouds that never moved. The ship dropped slowly, touching down without a sound. The envoy stepped outside. The ground was black and smooth like glass. The sky above held no stars. In the distance stood a tall tower made of stone. It looked broken, old, and forgotten. But as the envoy walked toward it, the tower began to glow. Faint blue lines lit up its sides. The ground shook lightly. The air became warmer. Inside the tower was a single room. In the center of this room floated a round stone, spinning slowly. The stone showed images, pictures of the past. It showed humans building great ships. It showed them fighting monsters made of fire and dust. It showed them leaving Earth, spreading across the stars, and then disappearing. The envoy reached out and touched the stone. Suddenly, the tower lit up completely. A beam of light shot into the sky. The clouds above broke apart. A soft ringing sound filled the air. Then from the stone a voice spoke, not with words but with thoughts. "Awaken the others." That was all it said. The envoy turned and left the tower. He looked up at the stars now shining above the planet. A soft wind moved across the ground. Then, without moving his lips, the envoy sent a signal. It was silent. It was fast. It went in every direction, touching every corner of the galaxy. Far away, strange things began to happen. On a dusty moon, buried under layers of rock, a small machine blinked for the first time in 1,000 years. It rose from the dirt, unfolded sharp legs, and began walking toward the stars. In the oceans of a gas giant, deep below crushing waves, glowing shapes woke up and began to rise. They were large, made of light and sound. They had slept for ages, hidden where no one could find them. Now they moved again. On Earth itself, long-forgotten doors opened under the mountains. Inside were rooms filled with light, music, and memories. The ground trembled. Something ancient had been turned on. The galaxy felt it all. The Council received reports of strange power surges, lost satellites, and broken sensors. Drones vanished without reason. Ships drifted off course. Planets once quiet now sent strange readings. The leaders tried to understand, but nothing made sense. Too much was happening all at once. Then came the first sign of real danger. A listening station near the edge of known space picked up a message. It was old, written in a human language no one had used for hundreds of years. After many tries, the scientists translated it. The message said, "This galaxy was once balanced. That balance was broken. It will be restored." People panicked. News spread fast. Markets fell. Armies moved. Civilizations that had not spoken in decades began to call each other. The fear of Earth's return was now real. Some believed humans would take back their old place. Others believed they would destroy everything. And still, no one had seen Earth itself. Envoy 13 remained silent, though now he was not alone. Across the stars, other figures began to appear. Each was different, but each gave off the same strange feeling, calm, cold, and unshakable. They stood on mountain tops inside storms or deep under the sea. Some looked like people. Some looked like machines. A few looked like nothing ever seen before. But they all did the same thing. They waited. Meanwhile, not everyone was afraid. On the planet Nevara, a small group of explorers celebrated. They believed that humans were not here to fight, but to fix what had been broken. They remembered old stories passed down from travelers and thinkers. Stories of a time when humans had united the stars, built bridges between worlds, and shared knowledge freely. The group began to send peaceful messages toward the places where the new beings had been seen. They asked questions. They sent gifts. They waited with hope. But their hope did not stop the war that was building. The Zern Empire launched a secret mission. They sent a special team to capture one of the new human-like figures. The team was made of the best hunters and soldiers. They carried weapons made to hurt even stars. They found one of the strange beings on a moon covered in ice. At first, the being did nothing. It simply watched the soldiers. The team fired every weapon they had. The ice cracked, the ground shook, smoke filled the sky. But when the smoke cleared, the figure still stood, unharmed. Then it moved. It did not run. It did not hide. It simply reached out and touched the air. The entire moon split in half. Every member of the team was gone in an instant. Not dead, not broken, just gone, as if they had never been born. The news reached the council quickly. This time there were no arguments, no plans, just silence. Even the loudest voices had nothing to say. They had tested Earth's envoy once. Now they knew better. Across the galaxy, leaders stepped down. Armies stopped moving. Walls came down. People looked to the stars not with hate or fear, but with questions. What did Earth want? Why had it returned now? And what was the meaning of balance? Back on his ship, Envoy 13 opened his eyes. The stars reflected in them, though they showed more than space. They showed time, memory, and light itself. He had not come to start a war. He had come to stop one. But to do that, he would have to end something else first, the lies that held the galaxy together. And he knew the hardest part was still ahead. Because deep inside the Galactic Council, hidden in shadows and secrets, something old had begun to move. It was not Zern. It was not Kiroth. It was not from any known world. It had waited longer than Earth. It had watched from behind every curtain. It had pushed empires into war and led heroes into ruin. And now it was ready to reveal itself. The true enemy was not war. It was control. And Earth had come to break it. The galaxy was quiet, but the silence was not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that came before something big. Everyone knew something was coming. Planets prepared in secret. Armies waited in the shadows. Ships floated near borders, ready to move in a moment. But no one truly knew what would happen next. In the heart of the Galactic Council, the oldest minds met in darkness. They no longer spoke through screens or open calls. They whispered through hidden channels, using codes that hadn't been used for hundreds of years. These minds had guided the galaxy for a long time. They had built cities, shaped laws, and made decisions that others followed. But they had also hidden many things. They had kept the truth about Earth locked away. And now the truth was waking up. The Council had a secret. Deep beneath their chambers, under layers of metal and stone, they kept a machine. It was not made by them. It had been found long ago, buried inside a ruined moon. The machine had no name. It had no face, but it could think. It could speak. And it had always warned them of Earth. The Council called it the Core. The Core had whispered many ideas over the years. It had told the Council how to stay in power. It had explained how to keep planets from rising too fast. It had taught them how to cause wars without being blamed. Most of all, it had told them to fear Earth. It said humans were too wild, too strong, too different. It said if Earth ever returned, everything would fall. Now that Earth had returned, the Core spoke louder than ever. It told the council to act fast. It told them to destroy the envoys. It told them to strike first before Earth took over. The council listened, even though some were afraid. They gathered a fleet, the largest the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. Thousands of warships, millions of soldiers, weapons that could break stars and burn skis. The fleet was sent to one place, the outer edge of the Orion field, where one of the human envoys had last been seen. Envoy 13 stood alone on a floating island of crystal. The island drifted above a golden cloud sea. Wind passed beneath it, warm and full of light. Around him, the sky shimmered with colors that changed every second. He did not speak. He simply waited, knowing what was coming. Soon the sky grew dark, the wind stopped, the light vanished. In the distance a shape appeared. It was the Council's fleet. The ships flew in tight lines, glowing with red lights. Engines hummed with power. Giant cannons pointed forward. As they moved closer, the air cracked with energy. They stopped just above the clouds, surrounding the island like a metal cage. A signal came down from the largest ship. It did not ask questions, it gave a warning. The envoy was told to surrender. He was told to kneel. He was told to shut down. But the envoy did not move. Instead, the crystals below his feet began to glow. Soft lights rose from the ground and floated into the air. Then the island started to rise. It moved slowly at first, then faster. It climbed into the sky, passing between the ships. The fleet followed. The chase had begun. The island moved faster and faster, cutting through the clouds like a star. The Council's ships stayed close, firing warning shots. Energy beams cut across the sky. Some hit the island, breaking off small pieces, but the envoy stayed on his feet. He did not run. He did not fight. At the edge of the Orion field, the island stopped. It hovered above a quiet planet covered in silver dust. The fleet caught up and formed a circle around it. Then the command was given. Attack! All at once the fleet opened fire. Beams, bombs, and plasma bolts rained down. The air turned white. The sky broke into fire. The sound was louder than thunder. Waves of heat tore through space. The planet shook. The clouds vanished. But when the smoke cleared, the envoy still stood. Not a single mark was on him. The council watched from afar, shocked and afraid. The Corps sent new orders: increase the attack, use the final weapons. The fleet prepared the last resort, a weapon made from black matter, the kind of energy that could erase time itself. It had only been tested once on a dead moon. That moon no longer existed. The weapon charged. A dark sphere appeared in the center of the lead ship. It grew larger and darker, sucking in light. When it reached full power, it was fired straight at the envoy. But just before the weapon hit, something strange happened. The sky above the planet split open. A shape larger than any ship appeared. It was not made of metal. It was made of energy, light, and memory. It looked like a ship, but also like a being. It had no engines, no guns, no crew. It floated above the battlefield, calm and still. This was the Ark of Earth. The Ark had slept for a long time, hidden between stars, folded inside space. Now it had returned. The black matter weapon touched the Ark, but nothing happened. The dark sphere vanished as if swallowed. The Ark gave off no sound, but a wave of calm spread across the battlefield. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Pilots paused. Even the Council's machines went silent. Envoy 13 looked up at the Ark. A beam of light came down, wrapping around him. Slowly, he rose into the sky and entered the ship. Inside the Ark there were no walls, no floors, just endless space filled with stars. The stars moved like thoughts, each one showing a memory. The Ark showed him scenes of Earth, green forests, blue oceans, cities filled with life. Then it showed the stars, ships traveling, people growing, new worlds forming. The Ark spoke to the envoy's mind. Balance must be restored, not with war, not with fear, but with truth. The envoy understood. Back outside, the Council's fleet waited, unsure of what to do. Then the Ark began to move. It passed over the ships but did not attack. Instead, it released small lights. These lights entered the ships quietly. When they touched machines, the machines stopped working. When they touched people, those people remembered old things, stories of Earth, lessons from the past, dreams they had forgotten. One by one, the ships powered down. Pilots stepped back. Soldiers removed their helmets. No one gave orders. No one fired again. In the Council chamber, the Corps screamed. It sent out warnings. It tried to shut down systems, but something was wrong. The Corps' own power began to fade. Its lights blinked. Its voice cracked. Then, from the shadows, another figure appeared. It was Envoy 7, the one who had walked into the dark moons. He had come for the Corps. The Corps tried to stop him. It sent energy blasts, sent data storms, tried to confuse him with images and noise. But the envoy walked forward. He touched the Corps' surface. The Corps fell silent. A great light filled the chamber. When it faded, the Corps was gone. In its place stood only a single stone, like the one from the old tower. Peace returned to the chamber. Some council members wept. Others sat in silence. They understood now that they had been tricked. The Corps had guided them not to peace, but to fear. Above the galaxy, the Ark hovered. It opened new paths between planets. It shared knowledge, not commands. It healed what had been broken. It helped ships fly faster, helped sick people get better, helped water return to dry worlds. But the Ark did not stay. One day it rose higher than anyone could follow and vanished into the stars. The envoys went with it. They left quietly without a single word. But before they left, they planted one gift on every major world, a seed of light. These seeds were not plants. They were ideas. They could not grow with water. They grew with hope. On each world, people began to build again, not for war, not for power, but for connection. Children learned new stories. Old enemies shook hands. New songs were written and new dreams took shape. Earth had not come to conquer. It had come to remind. The galaxy was quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. It was not the silence of fear. It was the silence that comes after a storm, when the sky clears and the world holds its breath, wondering what comes next. Stars shone brighter. Planets turned slowly. Life began to shift, like a sleeping giant waking up from a long dream. After the Ark disappeared into the stars, things started to change across the galaxy. On every world, people looked up at the sky and remembered what had happened. They remembered the light that stopped the black matter. They remembered the envoy who stood tall as the most powerful fleet attacked. They remembered the silence that followed and the peace that had come without a single demand. The seed of light left behind by the envoys was not something anyone could see at first. It was not a plant, not a machine, not even a real object. It was an idea that could grow inside a person's heart. On each world, people began to feel it. At first, it was just a small change. A pause before a soldier reached for his weapon. A soft smile between neighbors who had once been enemies. A moment of quiet in a room that had always been full of shouting. Then the changes became bigger. On the desert world of Zarnith, water returned to the surface. The rivers that had been dry for over 100 years flowed again. The sand turned dark and rich. Crops grew. Children played near small lakes, and old farmers wept as they touched green plants with trembling hands. No one understood how it happened. Scientists studied the ground, but they found nothing new. All they could say was that something had shifted. Life had returned. On the frozen moons of Dalar, machines that had once mined ice for war engines were turned off. Instead of digging deeper, people began building homes. Warm lights filled the caves. For the first time, families stayed instead of running. People planted light stones in the snow, and small gardens grew beneath glass domes. Soldiers became builders. Guards became teachers. They shared stories around fires and drew pictures of the Ark on their walls. In the sky cities of Nalai, the songwriters who had once written battle marches now wrote music about peace. These songs traveled fast. They were shared through the stars, carried by simple signals. No matter where someone lived, they could hear a song that made them close their eyes and feel calm. One song, called "The Memory of Light," became known on every world. It had no words, just soft notes and quiet sounds. People said it felt like flying. The Galactic Council changed too. The chamber that had once been filled with fear and secret plans was now open to all voices. No more hidden codes, no more locked doors. The few council members who remained stepped down. They gave their seats to new leaders, farmers, healers, artists, and even children. The chamber was filled with people from every kind of planet, even ones that had once been ignored. The place where the core had once stood was now just a simple garden. A single tree grew there, tall and bright, with leaves that glowed at night. It was said that this tree came from the stone left by the envoy. No one watered it. No one fed it. Still, it grew, strong and tall. People from all over the galaxy came to see it. Some touched its bark and felt warmth. Others just stood near it and cried without knowing why. The fleet that had attacked the envoy was never rebuilt. The ships were turned into schools, homes, and parks. One of the largest ships, the Blade of Order, became a museum. Inside, people could walk through rooms filled with stories of what had happened. Children asked questions. Guides told them about fear, about mistakes, and about how the fleet had been stopped not by weapons but by light. On the outside of the ship, someone carved new words. "Let this be the last war." Back on Earth, which had once been silent and hidden, new life had begun too. The forests were thicker, the oceans cleaner, animals returned. Birds filled the skies with songs, but what was most special was how the people of Earth changed. The few who had stayed on Earth had lived quietly, waiting. Now they built again. Towers rose from the forests made of wood and glass. They did not block the trees, they grew with them. New gardens floated on lakes. People walked barefoot through fields, talking to each other with kindness. Machines still existed, but they were used gently. They helped, not ruled. No one wanted power anymore. They wanted balance. Children on Earth were taught the stories of the stars. But more than that, they were taught to listen. They learned to listen to the wind, to water, to animals, and to each other. They were told about the Council, the Core, the Fleet, and the Ark, but they were also told about silence, about peace, about the power of not fighting. Envoy 13 never returned to Earth. Neither did the others. Some believed they stayed with the Ark, others said they had become part of the stars. Still, their memories lived on. Every year, on the same day the Ark had appeared, people lit soft lights and let them float into the sky. These lights were not big or bright, but they filled the night like tiny stars, a reminder of what had once happened. Not everyone in the galaxy changed at once. There were still planets that wanted power. Some people still feared the unknown. There were a few who tried to rebuild the old ways, but they were small now. Their voices were soft and fewer listened. The light had planted something stronger. One day, a young girl on a small planet called Zella found something glowing in the ground. It looked like a stone, but it pulsed with light. She held it in her hand and felt her heart grow warm. When she showed it to others, they felt it too. Soon, many children on many planets found similar stones, each one different yet the same. They called them truth seeds. These seeds didn't grow into trees. They grew into ideas. They helped people speak without fear. They helped neighbors forgive. They helped leaders listen. The more seeds were found, the more peace grew. Soon, planets that had never spoken before sent messages to each other. They traded not just goods, but stories, songs, and art. They built new kinds of ships, not for war, but for travel. Families from different worlds shared meals. Scientists worked together, not to build weapons, but to study light, wind, and life. The galaxy became a place where differences were not feared, but welcomed. Some of the old watchers, the ones who had lived through many centuries, said this was what the universe had always wanted. Not silence, not war, but harmony. One very old being, who had lived inside the rings of a gas giant for over 900 years, wrote a message in the sky using magnetic dust. It floated above his planet for all to see. The message was simple. Perhaps humans were never meant to rule the stars. They were meant to teach us how to remember. Across the galaxy, people remembered. They remembered that the strongest power was not found in weapons, but in choice. They remembered that true strength was not control, but kindness. They remembered that silence can be peace, but only when it follows truth. And most of all, they remembered the day the Ark came, not to destroy, not to demand, but to remind the galaxy of what had been forgotten. The stars still turned, the world still spun, but now they did so with hope. Hope that the darkness would not return. Hope that the light would not fade. Hope that the seeds would keep growing. And deep in the places where stars are born, something stirred. Not a threat, not a fear, but something new. Something just beginning.